Tonight on the Invention Laboratory, we continue to examine some of the common negative experiences that inventors face when they're bringing a product to market. This is part 2 of 3. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, you should start there so that this content makes a little bit more sense. This 3-episode series is designed to help you prepare for those negative experiences and prompt you to react like a professional instead of a novice in the face of adversity. Just because you're a novice doesn't mean you need to be perceived as one by your team or future colleagues. As I mentioned before, we aren't here today to hop on the negativity train and discuss all of the horrible things that creators have experienced over the years. We aren't even going to discuss the scams in the industry. What we're choosing to focus on are the series of negative experiences that you can actually learn from and take control over in future projects. If I can give you a few common things to look out for as you bring that next idea to life, it won't be as scary and you won't be blindsided when they happen. Part 1 focused on the negative research assessment, and tonight we're going to discuss the negative patent opinion from an attorney. Now, before we can discuss how to handle the situation, it's important to understand what a negative patent opinion actually is. For clarity on the differences between general research and a patent search, visit episode 8 of the Invention Laboratory. The negative patent opinion is a result of a patent search completed by a licensed patent attorney or a certified patent agent. The purpose of a patent opinion is to receive an evaluation from an attorney based on the likelihood that you will be granted a patent that you're looking to pursue. This is all going to hinder on the information that you provide to them prior to the search. As you would imagine, the more complete and thorough your invention brief, the better chance you have of getting a positive opinion. We talked a lot about the submission process and getting it all down on paper in episode 5. There are several reasons that people receive negative patent opinions. The first is a lack of credible information. I refer to these submissions as green submissions or undercooked ideas. These usually come from people that are new to the process or they haven't overcome the hurdle of confidentiality. The problem with playing out this protection strategy with an attorney is that it's going to cost you more time and money than you expected. If you need clarity on how you're protected during this process, it's much cheaper just to ask the representative or attorney to explain how you're protected in those early stages. I've actually witnessed attorneys issuing a negative patent opinion just on the basis of lack of information. So do yourself a favor and hold off on your submission for a professional patent search until you've completed your general research and you also have the following items in place. Number 1 is a working title. This is the name you've given your project. Even if you don't intend on using it permanently, it'll oftentimes give your attorney keywords that they can use during the search. Number 2, a written description of what your product is, what it does, and how it helps the end user. Number 3, descriptive details on what you see the product being made out of, where you'd envision the product selling, general dimensions of the product, and whether or not retail packaging is going to be designed for it in the future. Not all products are destined for store shelves. Some of them are too large, or some things are put into brown boxes and they come with a sales sheet for floor models or used in online advertisements. Number 4, general preliminary sketches. It can be hand-drawn or a simple 2D CAD design. And number 5, which patent are you actually looking to pursue? Now, I do realize that some people would be happy with whichever patent is going to be approved, but it's important to know which patent will benefit you in the long run. Even though an attorney is going to make that discernment during the process, no one knows your product better than you. You may be able to point out a design feature that they can compare against prior art to see if you have a shot at getting a design patent. You may also be able to shed light on a functionality that makes your seemingly similar product different or superior to what they're going to uncover in the search. Being proactive here means less work later or bullets in your belt for a rebuttal if you do get a negative patent opinion. General research is so important prior to hiring an attorney to complete a professional patent search. As we discussed in part 1, answering those hard questions before they're asked actually adds ammo to your arsenal. The second reason an attorney may issue a negative patent assessment is due to prior art. Prior art is evidence that your invention is already known. Prior art doesn't need to exist physically or be commercially available. It's enough that someone, somewhere, sometime previously described or shown or made something that contains the use of technology that's very similar to your invention. If you'd like a deep dive into prior art, what it is, what it isn't, head over to the Invention Laboratory Facebook page. We just shared an article that does an excellent job of clearing up this muddied concept. The point is, there's always going to be prior art for any invention. In the words of an attributed famous federal judge, only God works from nothing, man must work with old elements. Patentability doesn't hinge on the existence of prior art. Instead, whether your invention is patentable depends on how different your invention is from that prior art. So hopefully you can now see why it's so important to complete a thorough invention brief before spending your hard-earned money on an official patent search. You don't want to have to pay for that service multiple times if possible. You can even conduct a prior art search yourself directly through the USPTO website to get an idea of what's already available and how you intend to differentiate from those results. Remember, the goal here is to be proactive, not reactive. The final reason you may receive a negative patent opinion is due to the result of a right-to-use opinion. In other words, you wanted to find out whether you'd be sued for patent infringement based on the results of that right-to-use opinion or clearance opinion. A right-to-use opinion may actually help decide whether or not to move forward with that new product or process. We've touched on that briefly, but it's still important to realize that one option in all of this is to close up shop and move your attention to something else. If there's no hope at the end of your traditional line of questioning, you may consider that option to mitigate risk and possible financial hardship via lawsuits or continued development processes. Now, as a reminder, my professional observation and suggestions are purely educational and shouldn't be used as a substitute for legal advice. I can only share my experience over the last decade and my knowledge of the industry as well as my career and educational background. If you need help finding a patent attorney in your area, reach out to me and we can chat about your project and what your options are based on your location. I hope this has prepared you for the possibility of a negative patent opinion, and with this knowledge, you can pursue your project with confidence, knowing that even in times of uncertainty or unfavorable results, there's still ways to power through, or at the very least, reassess your situation and pivot to a positive direction. Now that we have a better understanding of what the process is, let's look at the rebuttals or the reactions to those negative opinions. If you've already listened to part 1, you know that you have a small reserve of information that's going to assist with your response to this issue. If you took the time to complete a full invention brief, you have search results that'll aid in your rebuttal to the attorney, and if you've completed your own prior art search, you've already logged responses to each claim. You, as the creator, have to divulge your knowledge of all prior art when going through the invention process or participating in an infringement litigation process. Your response to prior art should focus solely on the many ways that your invention differs from the results. Don't give them more information than they asked for. If prior art was their only objection, only focus on prior art. When dealing with a lack of credible information, the burden has been placed on you to convince the attorney that they should continue working on your project. If it wasn't initially a confidentiality issue that forced you to give that little amount of information, that means you didn't complete a full invention brief. You probably sent a few paragraphs and a sketch that meant you put the burden on the attorney to figure out what you were trying to accomplish. That will never work out in your favor, and it's a surefire way to get brushed aside or listed in the non-priority pile in their office. If you need assistance with your brief, start this podcast over from episode 1. I've given you everything you need to reach this point in your invention journey. If you don't have the confidence in your abilities to complete the brief or you don't have the time, I help clients with this process on a daily basis. My clients have 3 options. They can remain independent creators, I can coach them through the process one-on-one, or they can hire me as a consultant. If you choose to remain an independent creator, which I fully encourage, you learn the most about the process during that approach. It'll cost you nothing but your time. You have access to my free podcast, online classes through Skillshare, a social media presence that provides industry knowledge daily. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram. You can add me directly on LinkedIn. My contact information is below. However, some people do need a more hands-on approach, and they have me coach them through the process. The fee that I charge for that is $100, and it includes a 30-minute coaching session every 2 weeks, as well as unlimited access to me personally via email for any questions they have throughout the process. Using this strategy, you still do all the work, but I walk you through all the steps. And finally, some creators don't have the time or the desire to do the work. This is actually my least favorite method because inventors learn very little about the process, and it limits the possibility that you'll be able to do any of this on your own in the future. With this method, you complete a creator's profile with some general information about your project, and I actually complete the invention brief for you. I charge a flat fee of $9.75 to perform that service. If you can avoid going this route, please do. My goal with this podcast is to educate my listeners to the point that they no longer need my assistance with any project. I'm giving the information away for free, but you, as the creator, you have to do the work, or you have to pay somebody to do it for you. The final opinion we need to address is the right to use or the clearance opinion. This lets you know if you're truly stepping on the toes of your predecessors. Not only is it frowned upon, but it has a tendency to be illegal. The rebuttal has to be very carefully crafted and justified in order to continue. If you've really done all the work to this point, you'll know immediately if you have what it takes to prove that your concept is different, better, or outright superior than what's been filed. If you've been lackluster in your approach, this decision is a little bit harder to process. This really is the go big or go home moment. If you can get approval, the next stage in development is prototyping, and you'll likely be past the point of no return on your project. Prototypes cost money, time, and resources. If you're curious about the different types of prototyping processes, episode 4 covered that in great detail. The other option at this point is to throw in the towel and start over on something new, novel, and non-obvious. Only you can make that decision, but if you prepare for the possibility of these negative assessments, you'll have an advantage over all other inventors. I think Rocky said it best. Life's not about how hard you can hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. The knockout blows will come full circle in the next episode, the negative presentation outcome. I look forward to tackling that issue because it's the one that we all have had to deal with or will have to deal with during this process. Thanks for tuning into episode 14, and as always, reach out to me with any questions that you'd like to have answered in future episodes. Until next time, take care.